In 2021, Zion National Park was the second most visited national park in the entire country. There are over 5 million people a year that visit Zion National Park, and they all kind of cram into this canyon that is about 8 miles long.
So our question we want to answer today is Zion too crowded? I'm Cheryl, this is Matt. We help people travel to the West, and we're Utahns. We have gone to this park pretty much every year of our entire life. And so today we wanted to talk about it.
So let me just give you a little background on why we're talking about Zion being crowded. Zion used to be kind of under the radar, and it was probably around the 17th or 20th most visited national park in the country, but it started quickly gaining steam and popularity for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's near Las Vegas, so that's a pretty easy place for people to get to. And then it's only about 2 hours away from Las Vegas, so it's accessible. The other thing is that social media had a big role in highlighting some of the very famous hikes in Zion National Park, like the Narrows and Angel's Landing. These are two world famous hikes. I mean, honestly, we cannot think of two better hikes. There are some out there that are comparable, but I mean, probably nothing actually better than those two amazing hikes.
And most hikes like that, you have to hike miles and miles to get to. I always say these are adventure hikes without having to do the backcountry hiking. So you're really getting to do some incredible hikes without having to do a lot of work.
And then another thing is just in general, baby boomers retiring. That really has exploded the national park numbers all over the national park system. But probably no national park is going through growing pains quite like Zion National Park.
One other thing that we think has caused more crowding, and I think that was actually meant to be a solution for the crowding, is the introduction of the shuttle system in the 1990s. This canyon, like Matt said, is only 8 miles long. There's very limited parking, and Zion, the national park people knew that wasn't going to work. And so when they implemented the shuttle system, they implemented it beautifully. I mean, we're actually, some of our groups waiting in line right now.
Yeah, you can see the shuttle right behind us. And right here is the line for the shuttle.
We're thinking this line's going to be at least 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get on the shuttle. But the amazing thing is once you get on that shuttle, it's amazing. You get a beautiful narrated tour of the canyon, and you can get off and on wherever you want, and it makes it accessible for everybody, which is wonderful. But because of how smoothly they've done it, people still have a great experience when they come, and so more and more people come.
The visitorship has probably doubled and tripled since they implemented the shuttle. The shuttle's been a massive success, but maybe too successful. Now, we actually think it's a good thing that the numbers have skyrocketed. So this is kind of contrary to a lot of people's opinions, but we think it's good. I mean, more people are getting outdoors. More people are able to find out about these things nowadays with social media and with the internet, and you're able to get really good information. This is what we want. We want people getting outdoors. This is what we need. I mean, we know this from being cooped up for 2 or 3 years thanks to COVID. We need to get outdoors, and we need to get out of our cubicles and enjoy nature. And the national parks are these affordable places to visit. That's what they were intended for. And so if that is succeeding, even if it's succeeding too well, we think that's a good thing.
Well, and one other thing to think about is just the mission of the national parks. They have kind of a two-part mission. One is to preserve, and the other is for the enjoyment of the people. Now, of course, us Utahns, I think sometimes we get a little bummed out that the park's so crowded. We've had so many adventures here where we didn't have to do much planning. We just showed up, stayed in the campground, and it was no big deal. But we did this whole video about Antelope Canyon a couple months ago, and that's a beautiful canyon that's behind a paywall. It's between $65 and $90 to access that canyon, depending on which tour you go on.
Per person.
Per person, yes. And I think Zion is so beautiful and amazing that it's really kind of selfish to try to hide it and act like only a few people should go. That's completely against the reason of the national parks. That's why federal government has this land and preserves it. It's because they want everybody to have access to this park, and trying to limit it and saying that people can't come is really against the mission of the national parks. This is for everybody. This is our parks.
Okay, so the question is it still worth visiting Zion? Now, what I'm seeing online is a lot of people saying, hey, Zion was cool back then, but now it's just too crowded. So I would just remind you that people have always thought the national parks were too crowded. Even in the early days, they thought they're at carrying capacity. But the National Park Service has gone through much bigger periods of growth than what we're going through right now. Post-World War II, it just shot up exponentially, the number of people that visited the national parks. There was great concern then, just like there is now, about it being too crowded and about the visitor experience not being worth it. Of all people who should think that Zion is maybe not worth it at this point, it would be us, because we were used to coming here when it was not that crowded, and now we're coming here and waiting an hour in line to get on the shuttle. And yet, it's just amazing. I'm just so happy to be here today. It's just incredible. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. There is no other canyon like Zion Canyon in the world, I think. Now, I think it's still worth visiting Zion for Zion, but let me also make a point that there's so much amazing things around these national parks that make them worth it to visit. Maybe in the old days you'd come here and spend 2-3 days in Zion and all that stuff, but nowadays you can come here and spend a day and you can still go around the surrounding area to see all these other great things. We did a Jeep ride out to a place called Gooseberry Mesa a couple years ago. There's state parks like Sand Hollow State Park that you can ride four-wheelers in. There's amazing things all around these national parks.
The next thing to know is that there is unique things in Zion National Park that you won't see anywhere else. The Narrows is just something that it's like indescribable. Like, hopefully we'll throw some good B-roll on here so you can see it. My words don't describe how amazing it is, and even B-roll doesn't exactly capture it. And Angel's Landing, you're up so high, that's adventure where you're holding onto those chains while you hike. And you know, one other thing I wanted to mention just about this is that sometimes I think about crowds like a movie preview. Like, you know, it's the opening night of a new movie and everyone is excited to be there and there's energy in the air. And when you're at a national park when it's crowded, yeah, sometimes you're trying to go to a national park to get away from things, but other times it's fun to see other people experience it, something that they're excited about, just like you're excited about. I love the energy in the air when there's a lot of people there, because it's fun to see people see the Grand Canyon for the first time, or it's fun to listen to people, their commentary while they're holding onto that chain on the Hog's Back on Angel's Landing. It's a fun adventure to you experience with other people. And the other take is that we were in Rome last summer and we visited the Colosseum. The Colosseum is craziness. There are so many people there, but it's the Colosseum and you have to see it. There's nothing else in the world like it, and that's what Zion is like. There's nothing else in the world like it, and so maybe you will come here and you'll see it and you might not want to do it again, but it's something you have to do. And even us Utahns, actually, that have been here several times, we keep coming back because this is a special thing about Zion that I can't explain on a video or with pictures. But there's a special feeling here. In my religion, there's a song that we sing called "I'm Stand All Amazed." And I feel amazed whenever I come to Zion that something this beautiful was created. And whether you believe in a higher power or the Big Bang, it doesn't matter, because it happened and a beautiful creation is right here in Zion National Park. So with that in mind, I wanted to give you just a couple of tips on how to handle the crowds if you choose to come.
Yeah.
And the first thing that comes to my mind is just anticipate that there will be crowds and that things will take longer. And so plan more time. You know, I've noticed that if I plan adequate time just to go grocery shopping or to drive places, if I run into traffic or lines, it's not that big of a deal if I planned adequate time. And so if you're coming to Zion, don't pack your schedule so full that you're going to be losing your mind while you're waiting an hour to get on the shuttle. Just enjoy looking at the canyon while you wait and talk to your travel people. It's fun.
That's just it. While you're waiting, no big deal. We've got these canyon walls you can see right behind us. You're waiting in the canyon. So even if you're kind of sitting there waiting for the shuttle for a while, it's still a great place to be. I couldn't think of a better place to be waiting around. So the other thing to know is if you want to do Angel's Landing, you need reservations. You got to get those well in advance to get a ticket to do Angel's Landing. However, if you don't get tickets to do that, you can get them the day before, or at least you can try to get them the day before. And if you're still not able to do that, just know that you can go up most of the way to Angel's Landing and get to this amazing lookout called Scout Lookout, even if you can't go all the way across the chain section.
We do write guides to travel to the west, including one right here to Zion National Park. And as we were waiting at the entrance to get into the park, we listened to some of Matt's audio guide, and it really passed the time. It was fun learning about the stories about the park. And so coming to the park with a plan in hand, ready to go with an efficient way to see it, can help. But the last tip I wanted, and by the way, our website is we'reintherockies.com. You can go there and check out our travel itinerary and audio guide if you want to. But the last tip I wanted to say is that, you know, these national parks, this is pretty much par for the course with any of them. But if you arrived at the park before 8, that helps you alleviate some of the crowding. Or if you come to the park after 4. Also alleviates some of the crowding. So if you
Yes.
can avoid that middle of the day time, you're golden. And I think a lot of times people are willing to like get up at the crack of dawn, but if you're not a morning person, just come in after 4.
Yep.
Enjoy that time. Just know that the last shuttle leaves the Temple of Sinawava
At like 7 or 8, depending
Yeah.
on the time of year and stuff.
We
So
love
Zion
Zion.
Canyon worth it still in spite of the crowds?
Absolutely.
We think so. We really love it. And now we are going to go catch the shuttle so that we can go experience Zion. We hope that you get to do that as well soon. Thank you for watching, and until next time, go west, young traveler.